Okay, so continuing the theme of dealing with the spirituality and the elevated holiness and sanctity and purity of a meal, I'm continuing. This video is going to be on the Kos Shel Berachah, the cup of blessing, that is sometimes ritually used during Birkat HaMazon, or grace after meals. So again, I'm bringing this from Netivot Olam, by the Maharal of Prague. It's his commentary. This volume is called Netiv HaAvadah. So in the middle of his writing regarding the grace after meals, or Birkat HaMazon, I'm going to start here. This section is called the Divine Commandment of Birkat HaMazon. So I'm going to start there, and it will pick up with it will pick up talking about the cup of blessing. So Birkat HaMazon is the greatest of Berachot because only God can feed man, and I mentioned this in the other video. So the most important of all Berachot is Birkat HaMazon, being careful to bless God who provided mankind with sustenance. Our sages said in Masechet Pesachim 118a that God's provision of food is the greatest of all things he does for us. Rabbi Yochanan said, providing a person's food is more difficult than the redemption. For regarding the redemption, it says, the angel who redeemed me from all evil. This is Berachah 48:16. But regarding sustenance, it says, the God who was my shepherd all my life. That's Berachah 48:15. So only God can sustain. God even sustains the angels. The exodus from Egypt took a very short period of time. The people, the whole nation, and their animals were in the wilderness being sustained supernaturally for 40 years. Moses was sustained on the mountain with sustenance, even though he was fasting, for 40 days and nights, two separate times. Okay. The explanation is as follows. Redemption occurs when someone is removed from someone's jurisdiction and goes out to freedom. An angel can accomplish this because it is under no one's jurisdiction besides God's. And being under God's jurisdiction, he is not considered as being under the jurisdiction of another, because everything is beneath God, and so it should be. There is no deficiency in this. For so is the way of creation. An angel, therefore, does not have the shortcoming of being subservient to another being, and can redeem someone from the jurisdiction of another person. But sustenance, Parnasa, is the means of supplying man's existence once he has already been created. How can this be achieved by an angel, when the upper realms also need to be sustained by God? Sustenance must therefore come from God himself, as the verse states, the God who was my shepherd all my life. Whereas concerning redemption, it states, the angel who redeemed me from all evil. For the Christians out there, redemption is a lower level than sustenance. All right, contemplate and you will understand that just as the heart provides vitality for all the organs, so all creatures receive their sustenance and existence from God. Our sages thus taught in Berachot 10a, just as the Holy One sustains the world, so the soul sustains all one's organs, comparing the soul to God in this context. The Gemara in Pesachim 111a mentions many things regarding the difficulty in providing man with food, and this is not the place to discuss them. It is therefore logical to say that in accordance with the greatness of man receiving his sustenance, he must bless God with a perfect Berachah, as will be explained in our discussion of Birkat HaMazon. So now he says, the cup of wine used for Birkat HaMazon perfects the Berachah, and the wine inspires us to thank God for all his Berachot, all his blessings. So our sages were very particular that Birkat HaMazon should be absolutely complete. Just as God perfects mankind by providing him with food, one should therefore recite the Berachah over a cup of wine. Even those who say that doing so is not necessary or not obligatory they agree that it is a mitzvah to have a kos shel Berachah, a cup of blessing, and say Berachah Hamazon over it. The cup of wine is most fitting for a Berachah, since due to its special qualities, it indicates that Berachah comes from God. This is why it is called kos shel Berachah, the cup of wine. Is an introduction to Berachah, God for the, I don't like the way it's, so the cup of wine is an introduction to bless God for the good he bestows on us. For when the abundance of Berachah stands before a person in the form of wine, he is inspired to praise and bless God for the rest of the bounty he received from him. Diluting the kos shel Berachah with water. The Mishnah in Berachot 7:5 teaches, one who says no blessing over wine until one adds water to it, according to Rabbi Eliezer. And the sages say that we do recite a Berachah. The Gemara in Berachot 50 adds, Rabbi Yoshi bar Rabbi Hanina said, the sages agree with Rabbi Eliezer regarding a kos shel Berachah, but we say no Berachah over it until one adds water to it. Why? Rabbi Oshaya said, we require a mitzvah to be performed in the best possible manner. So there is apparently no difference between the wine of the land of Israel, which was very strong at the time of the Mishnah, and the wine of these countries, which is weaker, the countries surrounding, so like outside of the land of Israel. Sorry. Water must always be added. Because the wine of the land of Israel is the principal wine in the world, this gives all other wines the characteristic that they are unfit for a bracha without adding water. So, however, one does not need to add water until the wine is totally diluted, because the Mishnah tells us to add water to the wine, but does not say it must be diluted, indicating that it is enough to add any amount of water, whether a lot or a little. On the contrary, it is better for the wine to be undiluted, since this, meaning being undiluted, is one of the 10 things said of the cup of Berachah used for Berachah Hamazon. So we're gonna read the 10 features of that ritual. So because the water comes to enhance the wine, a small amount suffices for this, and on the contrary, diluted wine is not considered true wine. So we dilute the wine because it brought lamentation to the world. So there is also profound wisdom in adding water to wine. Undiluted wine is not optimum for the mitzvah because wine brought lamentation to the world, according to Sanhedrin 70b. And many things said about wine indicate that it is opposite of Berachah. And a discussion of the rebellious and gluttonous son in Sanhedrin 70a, for example, the sages say that the letter Vav, which denotes ve or woe, is found 13 times in the passage in Bereshit where Noah drank wine. Therefore, we say no bracha over wine until water is added to it. And this makes it suitable for a bracha because once wine combines with water, it no longer causes lamentation and is suitable for a bracha. The 10 rules of kos shel Berachah. The Gemara in Berachot 51a and b teaches 10 things were said of a kos shel Berachah used for Berachah Hamazon. It requires rinsing and washing. It must initially be undiluted. The cup requires rinsing and washing. It must be undiluted, the wine, full, surrounded, and wrapped. One takes it in his 2 hands and places it in his right hand. He lifts it a handbreadth from the ground or from the table, assuming that it's on a table. And fixes his eyes upon it, and he sends it as a gift to his wife and the members of his household. So Rabbi Yochanan said, we only have 4 of those 10 things: rinsing and washing, undiluted, and the cup must be full. It was taught rinsing is from the inside of the cup and washing is from the outside. So we rinse the inside, we wash the outside of the cup, and that's part of the ritual. Rabbi Yochanan said, whoever recites a bracha over a full cup receives an unlimited inheritance, as it states, and when full of the bracha of the Lord, you will inherit the west and the south. Deuteronomy 33:23. Rabbi Yoshi bar Hanina says he merits and inherits 2 worlds, this world and the world to come. Okay, surrounded. Rabbi Yehuda adorned it by surrounding himself with his students. So Rabbi Chisda adorned it by surrounding it with other cups. Rabbi Hanan said, with pure undiluted wine. Rabbi Sheshet said, crowning took place in Birkat Haaretz. Sorry, the crowning took place in Birkat Haaretz. Okay, wrapped. Rabbi Papa would wrap himself and sit down. Rabbi Asi spread a scarf over his head. Next, it says, he takes it in his two hands. So Rabbi Hanina bar Papa said, which verse proves this? It says in Tehillim, Psalms 134, verse 2, raise your hands in holiness and bless the Lord. And then next it says, and he places it in his right hand. So Rabbi Chia bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the early sages asked, may the left hand assist the right hand in holding the cup. Rabbi Ashi said, because the early sages raised this question and it was not resolved for them, we will act stringently and not assist the right hand with the left. Next, it says, and he raises it a handbreadth from its place. So Rabbi Acha bar Rabbi Hanina says, which verse proves this? It says, I shall raise the cup of salvation and call upon the name of the Lord. That is Psalm 116, verse 13. And then next it says, and he fixes his eye upon the cup, so that his intention is not distracted from it. Next it says, and he sends it to the members of his household, so that his wife should be blessed. And there's all kinds of videos all over the internet of the Lubavitcher Rebbe passing out wine from his Shel Berachah. Anyway, the 10 rules of the Shel Berachah correspond to the 10 Berachot that Yitzhak gave Yaakov. So specifically requiring 10 conditions for the Shel Berachah is doubtless no coincidence. Requiring 10 conditions is doubtless no coincidence. Rather, they correspond to the 10 Berachot Yitzhak gave Yaakov in the passage in Bereshit 27, 28 to 29. It says, and may God grant you from the dew of the heavens. So washing and rinsing correspond to, quote, from the dew of the heavens and from the fats of the ground. The cup is washed on the outside because dew washes the ground from the outside until it is saturated with dew of Berachah. Rinsing it on the inside corresponds to the fats of the ground, as this also includes fatty moisture within the ground, which prevents the ground from drying out. Washing and rinsing thus correspond to from the dew of the heavens and from the fatness of the earth. Next it says undiluted, or high, live, corresponding to vetirosh, wine. For alive refers to wine in its full undiluted power, and wine denoted in the bracha of tirosh. So tirosh is what we're saying here is the undiluted wine. Malay, full, corresponds to plenty of grain. The verse does not say in plenty of wine, because the main bracha because the main bracha of the wine of the land of Israel is that it is very potent, while fullness applies specifically to grain. The Shel Berachah should therefore be full to the top. Filling the cup is relevant to threshing floors, as it states, and the threshing floors shall be full of grain. This is Joel 2:24. Moreover, grain satiates a person until he is full, and fullness is therefore linked to grain. Also, when there is an abundance of grain, the world is satiated and full. You might ask whether the Gemara should have first said full and afterward undiluted, to correspond with the order of the verse, which says in Bereshit 27:28, it says, and plenty of grain and wine. The answer is that one first ensures that the wine is undiluted and only then fills the cup up to the top. The Gemara says the person who does this receives a limitless inheritance, for when one recites the blessing over a full cup, so that it becomes a complete Shel Berachah, and the blessing is complete, there is no limit to the reward. Similarly, the Gemara says that if a person's blessing is perfect, he is rewarded in this world and the next, because the completed Berachah reaches as far as the world to come. Itor, so surrounding in atuf, wrapping, So surrounded, as in the verse it says, they surrounded David. 1 Samuel 23:26. Rabbi Yehuda therefore said that one surrounds himself with students. And Rashi explains that his students surrounded him as he recited the Berachah. However, Rabbi Chisda surrounded it with other cups, meaning his cup with other cups. Perush. A Torah surrounding corresponds to nations will serve you, and Yitzchak's Berachah. For servants follow their master, surrounding him from on all sides and walking in front and behind him. So Rabbi Yehuda therefore surrounded the Koshel Berachah with students who served their teachers so that they would receive the Berachah of having Gentiles serve them. Surrounding the central Koshel Berachah with cups represents the Gentiles who surround Yisrael as servants surround their masters. Rebbe Hanan said, and with undiluted wine, meaning that just as the cup of Birkat HaMazon is undiluted, so the surrounding cup should be undiluted, lest it appears that the Berachah is being recited over a cup of diluted wine. Rabbi Sheshet said that one should surround the Koshel Berachah with other cups at Birkat Haaretz, the second blessing of Birkat HaMazon. Because if one does so at the beginning of Birkat HaMazon, it would seem that he is reciting Birkat HaMazon over many cups. Possibly Rabbi Hanan held that the wine in the surrounding cups must be undiluted because surrounding the cup with other cups corresponds to, quote, and the nations will serve you. And the 70 nations correspond to the numerical value of wine or yain. So it's Yod, Noon. So Yod is 10, Yod is 10, Noon is 50. So 10, 10, and 50 is 70. So the 70 nations. So diluted wine, however, is not considered proper wine with a numerical value of 70. So wrapped corresponds to, quote, and the nations will bow down to you. For when a person is wrapped in his garment, he looks like an esteemed personage sitting wrapped in his attire, with everyone bowing to him. In a similar vein, Rabbi Yochanan called his garments, quote, that which makes me honored. Shabbat 113:1. This idea does not need to be explained. The Gemara says that one takes the cup with two hands and raises it a handbreadth from the floor, meaning from its, if it's on the table, raising a handbreadth, so it just, you're not like going like that, but it's just a little bit above the table. That's if you have a table, because the Rambam actually tells you to clear the table and sweep the floor, for Birkat HaMazon. But anyway, taking the cup in two hands and raising it a handbreadth from the floor, this corresponds to you will be a lord over your brethren. Bereshit 27:29. Because when one takes something in both hands, it denotes a powerful Berachah, for hands are instruments of rulership, as the verse states, his hand shall be against every man. Genesis 16:12. And the hand always signifies supremacy and strength. One therefore takes the cup in both hands so that the hand, an instrument of power, receives Berachah until the person becomes a lord. Next it says he places the cup into his right hand. This indicates elevation, signifying that the Berachah is to overcome his brothers and be elevated over them. The right hand signifies elevation, as it states, the right hand of the Lord is elevated. This is Tehillim, Psalms 118, verse 16. Thus, taking the cup in both hands and placing it in his right hand indicates that he will be mighty, ruler over his brothers, and be elevated over them. In addition, if he merely took the cup in his right hand, it would indicate a deficiency, as he would be using only one hand, and two hands are certainly preferable to one. So he therefore takes the cup in both hands, indicating that all his strength and his hand is involved in everything, that when he overcomes something, he rules over everything within it. And when he places the cup in his right hand, this signifies that he will become elevated to a very lofty level. Understand this, as these words are profound wisdom. So, this goes with what I've said in the past, that halacha it's practical Kabbalah. This will transform your life. And I don't remember if he says it in here or if it's mentioned in other texts, because I've read some other stuff along with this, that doing this ritual, doing the washing of your hands before a meal, washing of your fingers after a meal, doing the Shel Berachah for Berachah Hamazon is a segula for a complete whole marriage. If a marriage is failing, this is actually a segula for fixing it. So he says, moreover, you should know that taking the cup in his two hands and placing it in his right hand indicates that his power of rulership will be over everyone. For Israel was given power of kingship, and everyone accepts the king as their ruler. Therefore, one takes the Shel Berachah in both hands, for both his hands, symbolized in the kalal, are considered the recipients of the Berachah and the power of kingship. He then places the cup in his right hand, symbolic of the king who accepts the power and rulership from everyone. As it states, you shall set a king over you from among your brethren. Deuteronomy 17:15. This explanation is clear. The Gemara said, quote, and he lifts it a handbreadth from the ground, namely, basically its place. This corresponds to the passage in Yitzchak's Berachah. It says, quote, and your mother's children shall bow down to you. Prostrating oneself involves completely lying on the ground with hands and legs outstretched. As in the verse it says, for our soul is prostrated to the dust. This is Psalms 44:26. The person prostrated on the ground is considered as the ground itself, and the person being bowed down is to is detached from the ground. So earth thus intimates a person prostrated on the ground, and the person being bowed to raised from the ground. One therefore raises the cup a handbreadth from the ground, corresponding to the Berachah that says, and your mother's children will bow down to you. The Gemara says that one fixes one's eyes upon the cup because whatever one sees exists in actuality. Thus, fixing one's eyes upon the Shel Berachah denotes that the Berachah exists and that the people of Israel are the complete owners of the Berachah. And no one can curse a person who is blessed, as it states, quote, you shall not curse the nation as it is blessed. This is Bamidbar 22:12. And if one does curse one who is blessed, in actuality the curse reverts onto the one who cursed. That's why the sages even say that don't even curse anybody. Even if they you think that they deserve it, don't even do it. It says, we explained in several places that this is why our sages said a person should always be among the cursed rather than among those who curse others. Unless, of course, it is a prescribed curse. Because if one curses another person and that person does not receive the curse rebounds onto the one who cursed. You have no idea by the time it leaves your mouth if that person did teshuvah. You don't even want to go there. Therefore, placing one's eyes upon the cup corresponds to Yitzchak's Berachah, which, quote, and those who curse you shall be cursed. Moreover, when a person places his eyes upon the cup, it indicates that he is blessed with everything and sees nothing before him except for Berachah, except for blessing. The Gemara continues, he sends the cup to his wife and the members of his household. This corresponds to the verse that says, those who bless you shall be blessed. For the wife and children will certainly bless him when they receive this gift from him, and then they too also receive the Berachah bequeathed to the master of the house, as it says, those who bless you shall be blessed. We hereby explained and clarified how the 10 requirements of a Shel Berachah, the cup of blessing, correspond to the 10 Berachot, and if you contemplate, you will understand the true significance of these ideas. Okay, so next is proof that the 10 requirements of the cup of Berachah correspond to the 10 Berachot Yitzchak gave Yaakov. So we we find faithful testimony to this interpretation in the statement of Rabbi Yochanan in Masechet Berachot 51a. It says, we only have 4 of the 10 requirements: undiluted, full, washed, and rinsed. So Rabbi Yochanan does not mean to say that one only needs to fulfill 4 requirements, meaning undiluted, full, washed, and rinsed, because there were some Amoraim who fulfilled the other requirements. If so, how can he say that we only have 4 requirements? Rather, he means to say that now that we are in exile, we still do the 10 things that the cup requires, but we do not have the corresponding Berachah of peoples will serve you, nor the Berachot of nations will bow down to you. You shall be a lord to your brothers, and your mother's children will bow down to you. Those who curse you shall be cursed, and those who bless you shall be blessed. For the people of Israel do not enjoy those brachot when they are subjugated in exile, with no divine presence among them. But the first 4 brachot, where it says, from the dew of the heavens and the fats of the land, and plenty of grain and wine. So this depends upon the land itself and not on the people of Israel. And they still exist. For certainly, even though the Berachah of the land is not as great as it was in the past, it is evident from many places that it still exists. So Rabbi Yochanan furthermore said, we only have 4. A variant text that contradicts the idea of the 10 requirements of the Shel Berachah correspond to Isaac's 10 blessings to Yaakov. So I found the following version of the Gemara among various textual variants, and this is the Maharal writing, of course. According to this version, after the Gemara lists the cup's 10 requirements, it says, and some say he sends it to his wife, children, and members of his household. According to this version, the Gemara understands that there are 10 requirements in addition to handing the cup to one's wife and children. This version certainly considers taking the cup in both hands and then placing it in his right hand as 2 separate actions. But if so, there would be 11 requirements, which is interesting because there's 11 ingredients to the ketoret, or the incense. And that is actually something that the Rambam says goes with, like, beside the Shel Berachah. So, once you raise the cup and put it in your right hand, in your other hand you would hold incense. So don't get confused, like you're not holding the incense, the ketoret of the temple, because you're not allowed. But the whole idea is that those sorts of things are connected to each other. So incense is connected to the ketoret in the temple. Because if you make incense, you might make it out of one of the ingredients that are in the ketoret, or a couple of the ingredients. You just don't make it out of the exact formulation, right? Because a lot of those ingredients in the ketoret were common to make incense out of. So, but anyway, I just wanted to point out that connection. So, this version certainly considers taking the cup in both hands and then placing it in his right hand as 2 separate actions. But if so, there would be 11 requirements. Yet the Gemara said that only 10 things were said regarding Shel Berachah. Therefore, this version states, and some say there are 11, intimating that it does not count this as one of the requirements. I found this textual variant surprising, he says, because it does not correspond to the clear interpretation I said earlier, where the 10 requirements of the cup matched 10 details of Yitzchak's Berachah. I then studied the Rosh and found that the version that says, in some say, does not appear in his text at all. The Torah and other poskim also do not have this variant text. Our version is certainly the correct one, as we explained, for taking the cup with both hands and placing it into one's right hand is counted as one thing. Okay, I'm gonna end it right there, but again, that it is interesting because you're dealing with incense, and ultimately the sacrifices, even though they were animal sacrifices or something like that, it talks about the pleasing aroma to Hashem. And a lot of times people think, oh, well, Hashem, it's that smell of like burnt flesh or something like that. And that's not exactly the case, because there was Ketoret going all the time. And the Ketoret is the pleasing aroma to Hashem. Just wanted to point that out. So thanks for watching. Hopefully after these 3 videos, you've had a greater appreciation for the holiness of a meal, the elevation of a meal. Your sustenance is a higher level than redemption. It's like in your life, if you need something, if you need sustenance, if you need parnasa, it is absolutely like it. You could be subjugated, but that sustenance is more important to you than that subjugation, right? So sustenance, parnasa, is a higher level than redemption. So just keep that in mind. And Hashem sustains us all the time. Even the great, there are great rabbis, very humble rabbis that they live every day is a miracle. As a matter of fact, I'll point that out. The creation of the world. What did God say when it's all done? Tov ma'od. This world, this life, this universe. The other name for it is Tov ma'od. Everything that happens here. Tov ma'od, very good. It is very good. Don't think that something that happens to you is bad. Don't think that that's, okay? It's Tov ma'od. Everything that happens here is Tov ma'od. It's hard to understand. It's Tov ma'od. And whenever you actually get that and absorb that into your life, that this whole universe is Tov ma'od, then it'll be, you'll probably end up living a life of miracles. So thanks for watching. Hopefully your life will be transformed, and hopefully your family will be transformed if you take these, if you learn these concepts. If you learn the concepts of blessing Hashem before you eat, after you eat, washing your hands, elevating your meal to a level of holiness and sanctity, it will absolutely transform your life. And your children will actually thank you at some point in your life that you gave them these special times and rituals, traditions that they could count on, and it gave them absolute memories. There's nothing like having an overflowing cup. Having an overflowing cup and proclaiming Hashem's blessings upon it. There's nothing like that. It's a complete experience. So thanks for watching. Have a good night.